Australia is the perfect climate for outdoor living, outdoor lounging, outdoor dining, outdoor kitchens. They're all commonplace in our gardens. But have you thought about an outdoor bathroom? Sounds luxurious, right? Well, it's not that difficult to do, and you don't need a plumber, but what you'll create is a spot to rinse off after a swim or after a hard day's work in the garden. And this is the spot I'm going to be putting my outdoor shower. There's a tap here, so it's perfect for that. And first things first, mark it out and excavate for the hole. For the base of our shower, I'm just using treated pine sleepers. Now, these are treated to H4, which means they can go in the ground and they're not going to rot away. Now, I'm just going to cut them at 900mm in length, and we're going to need 5 of them. And now the next stage is to just take a plane and add a chamfer to around the edge of each sleeper. That way it's going to be more comfortable when you're having a shower. Now, you can leave your sleepers to grey off naturally. I mean, it is a fabulous look. I'm rocking it myself, but you could also add a little bit of stain just to give it a contemporary finish as well.
Turn up the bass, turn out the lights. We got us some brand new tricks tonight. It's never too late to go all the way. Living like a rock star cavalry.
With the stain dry, we can now install the base.
Love reaction with your touch.
This is geofab, which I'll fill with blue metal. And that's going to help the water to drain away. We're simply screwing our sleepers down with a stainless steel bugle, but I'm leaving a 10mm spacer between them to allow the water to get down to our drainage layer. I'm just putting together a really simple frame out of treated pine for our screening to go on. Now, we've got a top and a bottom rail as well as side rails, but it's really important to have a support in the centre. However, don't put it up this way. It needs to be nice and flat, so we've got clearance for all our copper pipe. For our screening, I'm just using Merbau. Now, this comes in 42 by 19mm, makes perfect screening material. Because our screen is 900mm wide, I've got 2.7m lengths. That way, I can get 3 bits of timber out of one, and there's no wastage. When you've got a large frame like this, more often than not, it can be slightly out of square because the timber might be bowed. Now, that's a problem when you start to put your slats on because they'll follow the frame and that can not look its best. So a way to get around it is take a string line that you can run and then attach all of your slats to this, and you get a very schmick looking screen.
It's Friday night and you broke my heart on.
When it comes to your last few slats, it's always a good idea just to lay those down and eye them in. So the last 5, I'm just gonna lay out, space them out by eye, and then screw them down. Right, now we can go and install this. Thank you, strange man who came from nowhere. Now, this is a very technical part of the build. You need to work out where all your bits and bobs go. Obviously, you want water coming from above you. You don't want that bit higher than your screen. You also need the bit that plugs into the tap down there. Then you've got to work out where you want your handle. Trust me, this is the best way to do it. Now, all this stuff I've got here is proper plumbing stuff, but because we're working from the tap onwards, we don't need a plumber to do it. It's just push fittings. It's really, really simple. I've got my tap in here, and I take a copper pipe, which just pushes into that piece, just like that. Then this will go through for the shower rose, and I just need to trim it up to make sure it's the right length, hook it together. It really is as simple as that, and the best part is, all of this came from Bunnings.
It's killing me most. I will be yours for now,
Fixing off your screen is going to be different for every garden, but for us it's really quite simple. We've got a post at the back which this handrail is secured to, so I can take a couple of these battens off and screw straight into that just to secure it. Oh, one more I reckon. I've just put a really simple double tap on here so we can always keep the hose and our shower plugged in. To surround our shower, I'm just putting in a little bit of planting. Now, most people think lamandras are really good for drought-tolerant gardens, and they're not bad for that, but they have evolved in waterways so they can take wet feet as well. One of these finer leaf ones is perfect because it's not going to be too heavy around the edge of our shower. And then at the front, where you enter, it's just a little seaside daisy. Just finishing our shower off with a bit of mulch. And take a look at it, I think it looks fantastic. We've got the perfect spot to rinse off after a swim or a hard day in the garden. My last tip would be, if you really want to impress your partner at home, give your dirty clothes a wash as well. Juliet's going to love this. It's a bit cold.
It's a little bit of magic, isn't it? This is the Cocos Islands, about halfway between Perth and Sri Lanka, and believe it or not, it's actually part of Australia. All right, it's not the Cocos Islands. I'm actually on a beach in Sydney, but it's still pretty nice. But the Cocos Islands are absolutely on my bucket list. I've got to go there one day, not just for beautiful scenery, but because the food is incredible. Actually, I've got a couple of Cocos Island classics to show you. They're amazing. The Cocos Islands are actually a lot closer to Malaysia than they are to Australia. And as a result, the food's very much influenced by both Malaysia and Indonesia. I'm going to show you a great dish. It's called curry ikan, or ikan curry, or fish curry. But first thing we'll need to do is to make a really simple curry paste. It's only a handful of ingredients, and all you need is a mortar and pestle or a blender. Probably the best thing about this whole dish is how quick it is to cook. About 15 minutes start to finish. In fact, making the curry paste is the longest bit. Speaking of the curry paste, ginger, garlic, lemongrass and turmeric, they're your first building blocks. Whether you're making this by hand or by machine, you need to chop everything down a little bit first. It just goes easier. It doesn't need to be completely smooth because there's still other things to go in. Next, we're going to add some chilies. Now, to fill it out, I reckon echalots are a great way to go. Don't use the big onions. They're a bit too acidic. Maybe 2 of those. And for flavour, kaffir lime leaves, but don't go overboard. We've actually got one more ingredient we need to add, which is our coriander. You can have a little bit, you can have a lot, but if you want the authentic flavour, add some roots as well. Beautiful. That really does smell amazing. You might know, though, that every single curry paste needs to be fried before you're able to use it. But I don't want to do that just yet because, like I said earlier, it cooks in no time flat. So we're going to get our liquids together as well. Coconut milk, fish sauce, bit of lime juice, now, normally, if we were using baby spinach leaves in a dish like this, you'd grab a couple of handfuls and chuck them straight in. However, the idea here is to make it part of the sauce. So, if you're doing it at home, grab a blender and puree it up, or with the mortar and pestle, we could transfer the curry paste out and grind it up together. It's not only going to have that great spinach flavour, and it's good for you, but it's also going to give the sauce a lovely green tinge. So, we pop the spinach into the coconut milk. And yes, now we're ready to cook. So a bit of coconut oil and in goes our curry paste. You really don't need to cook this too far. It'll only take a few minutes. It needs to be softened, but with no colour. At this point, we'll add the liquids. You just need to let this simmer for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. Meanwhile, for veg, we're going to add both tomatoes and eggplant. Chunky bits, pop them in, and you cook it just until they soften. Once they're in, I do need to think, hold on, we've got the tomatoes, the eggplant. For a fish curry, we probably need some fish. So I'm going to go and catch one. Oh, come on. There's more chance of me getting to Cocos Islands than catching a fish. Tasting amazing. Could actually use a bit of salt though. But if you want to re-season it, don't use salt. Use a bit of extra fish sauce. It gives you the same kind of idea, but even more flavour. Okay. Speaking of fish sauce, what about the fish? Well, I'm going to use some ling, mostly because, well, it's a good value for money fish, but you know, you can do snapper, blue eye, whatever you like. Dice it into chunky pieces, pop it in, and then what's it going to need? Like 3 minutes? Not longer than that. That really is an impressive dish. Now, to serve it up, of course, you're going to need to add nothing. You might be tempted to say, oh, you'll need rice or noodles. Not at all. Put them on the side if you absolutely must. But if you're travelling in Malaysia or the Cocos, it's just this in a bowl. Yes, it's a bit soupy, but that's kind of the idea. It's light and it's fresh, it's delicious. Were it just me, I would take the pot and a spoon and go sit out there and be done with it. But of course, this is a dish to share, and you'll want to do that because you and your friends are going to go on a memorable adventure, one spoon at a time.
When my kids were young, they used to say to me, Dad, you know, why don't we have a trendy pet? You know, we've got dogs, we've got cats, we've got birds, we've got chooks, we've got all that sort of thing, but we haven't got anything that's really trendy. Well, boy, have I got a trendy pet for you. Ben, what are you up to?
I'm just tending to little Peso, our store Axolotl.
They're such different animals, aren't they? They're amazing. You know, going back, say, 60, 70 years ago when I was a kid, they were popular. A lot of people had axolotls, you know, and then they just sort of disappeared.
Yeah, so these guys are found in the alpine regions of Mexico, and unfortunately today they are critically endangered in the wild. In 1998, they estimated there was about 6,000 axolotls per square kilometre. Today, less than 35. And that's largely due to people catching them for food, pollution, and there's also introduced fish species that actually come and eat the offspring of the axolotl. So they're in a pretty bad way in the wild. If it wasn't for the pet hobby, they probably wouldn't exist today.
So do they breed well in captivity?
Incredibly well. Our knowledge has come a long way about the captive husbandry of axolotls, so we can care for them really well, and they breed like crazy.
Really?
Yeah. They're one of the only animals on the planet that can actually breed and reproduce at their larval or baby stage, as well as an adult. So it's like a tadpole breeding, but also the frog breeding. So the process is called neoteny. It's amazing.
I have to remember that. Neoteny. You can remember that too. There'll be a question later on in the show.
Axolotls are actually, believe it or not, they were called the Mexican walking fish, but they're not a fish. They are an amphibian. So what they can do is, if times are tough and water levels start to drop in the wild, they can actually go into the process of metamorphosis, lose their gills, develop lungs, and come onto land. They turn into what's called a salamander, and I've got a little guy here I can show you. This is Jeremy.
Jeremy?
Little Jeremy. So he is the adult form of an axolotl.
So like you'd handle any frog or anything like that, you need to have your hands wet?
Correct.
Because they need to be wet.
That's
Do
right.
they absorb moisture through their skin?
They do, yeah, absolutely. So really important not to spray any chemicals or aerosols in the room where they are, because they can absorb that into their skin and it can be quite harmful for them.
Incredible transformation, isn't it? I need to know about keeping them in captivity, okay?
For sure.
You've got a lovely pristine tank here, and I know one thing, right? You've got very fine sand on the bottom, because if you put gravel in there, they actually eat the gravel.
Yeah, so they are actually nocturnal, and the rivers and the particular lake that they come from in Mexico, very dark, so very poor eyesight. And when they feed, they suck in a whole lot of water all at once. So if you've got little parts of gravel in the tank, that's when they can accidentally ingest those. So you've got to have fine sand or a bare bottom tank, go completely bare with no substrate whatsoever.
What about feeding them, mate? Because I can remember as a kid, they were terribly messy feeders. So how do you get on for feeding them? What do you do these days?
Yeah, so axolotls are carnivores, so it's really important that they're fed a wide variety of live insects. So we feed them earthworms, bloodworms, they'll take crickets, wood cockroaches, all sorts of things. And you can tongue feed them, so you can get tweezers and actually offer it to them to the mouth, so there's less wastage. Or some people like to feed them in a separate tank, but it can be a little bit stressful moving them back and forth.
Can you keep one or two in a tank of this size? What would you do?
They're generally solitary, but you can keep pairs together, provided you've got a large enough tank. So this is a 4-foot tank, which is what we'd recommend for 1 or 2 adult axolotls. You could start them off in something a little bit smaller, like a 60 centimetre tank, but bigger is always better. It gives them plenty of space to move around.
And when they develop into an adult as a salamander, is that the only colour the salamander comes in?
You can also get whites and albinos. I've seen albino salamanders as well, so absolutely amazing.
How long are they going to live?
Between 10 and 15 years, so they are fairly long-lived animals, and water quality is everything. So it's really important to do a weekly partial water change, dropping about 20 to 30% of the water to make sure that the tank is always pristine for the little fella.
And it's fresh water, of course, it's
always
not
fresh
salt
water. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yep. A few little places to hide is good. Always use objects that are quite smooth at the surface. Anything too rough can cause abrasions on them when they're walking around, and great for them to have a little cave or somewhere to go in and hide.
They're very different. And I can tell you one thing, if you own an axolotl, you will be the envy of all of your friends. I promise you.
I reckon most of you out there would be lying if you told me you've never knocked over a box of screws or nails while doing a DIY project. I mean, how annoying is it? But when it gets to this point, it's about remembering the basic things in life. What is that? Well, it's a magnet. So instead of me trying to pick up all these little nails, I just get my magnet and I go like this. It's like magic. Now, I think you'll agree that was a lot easier. But the fun doesn't end there. What happens when you've got your screwdriver bit and you go to get a screw and it's not magnetised? And that is really annoying when you want the screw to stay on the end. Well, it's simple. You just get the magnet again, and all you have to do is run the magnet over the tip just a few times. Don't have to be greedy. And look what happens. You end up with a bit that's magnetised. Amazing. So remember, whenever in doubt, call on the trusty magnet.
Skyrocketing house prices impact our everyday lives in so many ways, from budgets to lifestyle choices to even where we live.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And let's face it, planning a new build using a top-flight designer or architect is out of reach for most families. Here in the suburbs of Brisbane, we're about to visit a home which is a marriage of sustainability and affordability with a lot of character thrown in.
Was a part of me that always had to get away, but now I'm thinking that I'm not leaving.
Wow, well, Pete, this is the opposite of a project home.
No, this is known as the LiveWorkShare House, and it strives to set new standards in the way most of us live and absolutely makes the most of its very tight block.
And the architects who designed this went one step further and they actually built it to be their own home. So you could say that this is an ongoing experiment for flexible living and working. So Pete, I'm guessing the name, the LiveWorkShare House, gives us a tiny clue behind the design theory of this home.
You got it. In terms of sustainability, we need to start thinking of our homes more than just places where we live.
Yeah.
Now, they're places where we work.
And entertain.
Yeah, and if we're constantly renovating our homes over and over again, it's unsustainable in terms of our budget and the planet. So from the outset, we need to plan our homes with a flexible design that can evolve as we do over time.
There's a sky that falls tonight. I stare into the twilight. I feel the rain on my face.
So another really key part of a flexible living design is if you're going to have a multifunctional home, you're actually meant to have an individual entry for each particular part of your house.
Yeah, 2 street frontages certainly help this home, but if you've only got a single entry, well, you need to get creative.
The other thing that strikes you is the amount of green space there is. I mean, so many new homes these days are built from boundary to boundary with every bit of square metre is just taken up.
If there's one point to take home from this design, this is it. When you start a new renovation or home, check with council your height limits and your setbacks. You don't need to build right up to the boundary. Here, they could have built on 50% of the block, but they've only used 40%. They've broken up the plan with a series of courtyards, getting light and ventilation in and around all the living spaces.
So Pete, when you talk about this being a multifunctional home, how exactly does that work?
Well, we've just come past the home office, which can easily have up to 7 people working away. But if the business expands, they've thought about that, it can easily overflow into an adjacent bedroom.
So that now means that we're actually walking into the family's private domain?
And this is where it becomes really special. It's got this almost subtropical village type feel. It's a series of indoor, semi-enclosed and outdoor areas, all linked by this open walkway.
Into the main living area.
Yeah, now when planning a new home, designers talk about where to mass the building, that is where to place it on site. Here they've chosen a series of single width pavilions, which means they're open on both sides, great for cross
Yeah, you
ventilation.
can actually feel the breeze as you walk your way through here. I also like the fact they've used a really economic material to line this entire pavilion. It's all ply, so you have this great sense of warmth. And the other thing that's really impressive is that visual link to both of those extra seating areas makes what is a fairly modest space feel a lot bigger.
Yeah, remember the driving theme is adaptability and versatility. So depending on the family dynamics, you can open these spaces up or close them down for privacy.
Back out we go, and using your village analogy, does that make this the town centre?
With its own central water feature. We're right in the middle of the plan on a tight suburban block. So for privacy, they've got this beautiful retractable curtain.
So speaking of things that open and retract, the owners are sailors and they have a pulley system that covers this entire area. So in summer, you get extra protection from the sun. It also keeps your living areas that little bit cooler.
And when they're closed, you've got this quite beautiful 2-storey outdoor room.
Yeah, take me home. Take me home.
Now, there are 5 bedrooms in all, 4 of them planned on the top floor, all underneath this sloping steel roof, which plays a very important role. It gets light from the north down into these southern bedrooms, but creates this 2-storey edge where they've had some fun.
Yeah, in 2 of these bedrooms, they've got like a little loft space, one that has a ladder to get up to it, and the other that has a climbing wall.
Yeah, so it's all about fun, affordability and sustainability. Even up here, this is just rough sawn plywood cladding. Around the door jambs, it's just reconstituted hardwood sourced from a local demolition yard. But the colour themes out here, Joe.
Now you want to talk about fun. They've got orange Lucabond on some of the windows, which again gives you privacy. And this is another really economical material that they've used as the balustrade. Now, it is fiberglass roofing, believe it or not, and it gives you privacy into these areas, but also, Pete, it serves a really lovely sort of detail at night. So when the house is lit up inside, it's slightly translucent, so the whole house looks like a lantern.
Baby, I've been going kinda crazy.
So normally we would say we have discovered this house back to front, but with so many entrances, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And behind more of this fiberglass roof sheeting, there is a fully enclosed spiral staircase that leads to a completely self-contained granny flat.
Hey, you know the other thing we haven't mentioned? The whole thing was completed for $2,500 a square metre pre-COVID.
Yeah, so materials have gone up significantly since then, but you think about the amazing homes that we have looked at over the last 20 years, and many of those range from $6,500 a square metre to to then some.
Yeah, but this home tackles something different. It tackles the trifecta of functional diversity. Home, office, granny flat, all coexisting into the future.
Oh, it's a happy story.
The perfect prawn? Well, I've got the tip to cooking them. Prawns are definitely one of my favourite things from the sea. If anyone knows me, they know I love a prawn, and I'm always chasing different ways to flavour and cook them.
So I'm making prawns marinated with chili and ginger.
Now this marinade for the prawns becomes your dressing at the end as well. So it's so simple. And the flavours are a little bit South American. So I've just got under a kilo of prawns here. They're green cutlets, and I've just butterflied them slightly so that they can take on more marinade and also cook really quickly. Starting off the marinade, I've got 100 mils of warmed ghee, and I'm adding 3 cloves of garlic. Next in, 40 grams of freshly chopped ginger, a tablespoon of coriander seeds, whole, in they go. And in with a tablespoon of Aleppo pepper. This is a Middle Eastern pepper that's almost sweet but adds great colour to the marinade. About a tablespoon. Pop the whole ghee mix into a blender. For an extra bit of sweetness and also colour, I'm adding a tablespoon of tomato paste. And of course, we need some fresh chilli. I'm using 2 types. I've got the large red chilies. I'm going to chop them up roughly, seeds and all, and also 2 bullet chilies. Now, I'm treading a fine line here. I would probably add a couple more, but let's just keep this a gentle heat. And next in with 3 teaspoons of sugar. I'm just using the white sugar, but really whatever you can get your hands on, and 60 mils of extra virgin olive oil. Oh, and I almost forgot, we need salt in there as well. So about 3 teaspoons of flake salt. In we go. And we'll add some acid, 30 mils of lime juice, or thereabouts, and then we'll blitz to make a very lovely red paste. In my little beautiful contraption, it's taken about 1.5 minutes of blitzing, and you can see that this dressing stroke marinade is just so vibrantly red, but let's taste it. Now, because we warmed the ghee, the garlic has softened off beautifully. Then you can taste the really vibrant, fresh ginger, which adds a lovely pepperiness, along with the chili, but then the sugar and the lime juice just really sharpen those flavours together. It is great as a marinade, but it's going to be superb as a dressing. So just setting the dressing aside, just stir them through to coat. Now I'm thinking about when we serve these up, great way to decorate is some charred limes. But while we're waiting, let's just make a little herb garnish to finish the cooked prawns off with. So for the herb mix, I've got some coriander, and also I'm going to use some mint. Now, if the leaves are really small, just pick them off and drop them in. But if they're a little larger, like these ones, just roughly tear the coriander. And do the same thing with the mint. We're also going to sprinkle over some onion. I'm using a salad onion, very mild, fabulous. If you can't get your hands on these, use the whites of spring onion. That's all the onion we need. The limes are done, and we can get on to cooking the prawns. Okay, let's heat the pan, just a splash of oil, and then in with some prawns. Now, don't dump them all in at once. It'll cool the pan down too quickly. You're gonna have to cook them in batches. Maybe try a few as you go. After another minute or two, the prawns will be caramelised on the other side. drop them straight on the platter and go with the next batch. Well, they smell unbelievably good. Seriously, they're good just as they are, but we do have our salad and a little bit of the white onion. This is just a textural thing. Sprinkle it over the top. Sprinkle over a little bit of greenery. And let's get that dressing and just dollop a little extra on the plate. Definitely one of the sexiest prawn dishes around. They'll be gone in a flash. Hand them around with some skewers. Absolutely delicious.
Each of our states has a grand government house, just like this one in Hobart, Tasmania. Now, they are the home of the governor and, of course, a very important part of the administration of our states. Now, in the past, the likes of you and me, we wouldn't get in through the front gate. Well, the good news is that is all changing. Increasingly, the governors are opening these estates and welcoming the people they serve. This government house is one of the oldest in the country. It's the first thing you see as you drive across the Tasman Bridge coming into Hobart, and a truly magnificent home. In fact, it's considered one of the finest vice-regal residences in the entire Commonwealth. Now, the house is quite beautiful itself, but it's surrounded by stunning gardens, beautifully manicured, like this linden or lime pleached hedge here and the fantastic Buxus hedge and the beautiful gardens behind them. But the gardens I really want to show you are around the corner. Like most grand homes, the gardens around the house are quite formal, like this herbaceous border here with the taller shrubs at the back, the medium ones going right down, sort of this staged progression. But as you get away from the house, the landscape and the gardens become much more relaxed. Hi Tara, how are you?
Hi Graham, I'm well.
Estate manager, what a job.
It is, it's quite diverse. There's a lot of things to consider in the management of the estate, you know. High profile spaces looking very formal, but then we're sort of moving out into the more relaxed spaces like here in the Quarry Pond, and then food production as well.
Yes. Now, what's the story with this Quarry Pond here?
So this quarry was actually the space where stone was taken to build Government House itself.
Oh, really?
So not long after, it was turned into the ornamental pond that we see today.
Yeah.
And the plantings are more about showcasing views.
Along with the row of ceremonial plantings, you've got a row of oaks as well.
We do. Our Oak Avenue, a planting of 43 Quercus rubra, actually, the European oak, planted around the 1840s. And intended as a gorgeous promenade down to the river. One of them actually in the 1990s, after some wet weather, fell to its side, onto its heavier side, and has rested there quite beautifully. It's
on its elbows.
That's right, it's very sculptural actually.
The gardens not only provide a fantastic backdrop for the house, they also provide decoration for indoors. Now, the picking garden, aren't they popular today for homes? Well, here they're really busy and they're growing for the florists to select from, whether it's beautiful roses, Queen Anne's lace, alstroemeria, delphiniums, larkspurs, sweet William, sweet peas, it's all here. Now, a cutting garden doesn't need to be ornamental and pretty. It needs to be practical so that the flowers are at their very best. We've got these wonderful frames here, which may not look all that attractive, but they keep the plants upright, off the mud and the dirt, and if it's windy, of course, they're keeping them nice and supported. And the selection here just goes on forever.
Oh my
It's not only the flower cutting garden that's looking spectacular. At this time of the year, the very productive kitchen garden is absolutely full of bounty.
Try and take it slow. Coming down, passing out, searching for some.
Hello, Ancy.
Hello, Graham.
Executive chef here at Government House. What a job. This is the best living pantry anyone could have.
I know, look at it everywhere, all through here. It's all available for us.
And the young people coming in, they're getting experience, which is fantastic, isn't it?
Yes, they come in really regularly. About once a week we have different groups coming in. The little ones here come in. They often do more simple things, obviously, like homemade lemonade, things like that. The students here, they can be in vet classes at school or at TAFE.
Right.
They literally learn about paddock to plate. And we also have teachers come in for professional development as well. We do a lot of food for the community. Our governor's very passionate about food going out into the community, so any excess food, we cook up a storm and we drop off hundreds of kilos of food at Food Bank and City Mission and things like that.
You've got these beautiful flowers, wonderful veggies, and of course it's serving the governor and the community, which is just brilliant. Okay, everybody, to the kitchen. Lunch is on. Oh, right, so this is where it's all happening.
This is where it's all happening, Graham. We've got everybody here busy with all their different things that they're doing. So this lot are making the Japanese pancakes.
Okonomiyaki.
Yes.
My favourite.
Delicious, making with all the Savoy cabbage out of the garden.
Yeah.
And then we've got the fellas over here doing a beautiful lettuce pesto because we've got so much lettuce. And then over here we've got two young gentlemen. Here they've got some lemon verbena leaves that they've been crushing in the mortar and pestle, and they're making a homemade lemon cordial. But they make it with limes out of the garden, Tahitian limes.
So what do you think about that?
These taste like honey.
Oh, well, I'm told it's Government House honey.
Yes.
Your role's changed in recent times because you're engaging with the public much more.
The whole idea is to really have Government House sort of embedded more in the community so people feel comfortable about coming here. It's not just a grand house on the hill.
Yeah.
It's a house that is grand, but it's not just a house that's very grand. It's also there for the public to use.
So it's really carrying up that history, continuing on that history, but expanding into the community.
Absolutely.
Love it.
This is a situation a lot of you will be able to relate to, a very narrow hallway. There's not a lot of room to move here at all, but you still need somewhere to store all your things. Might seem impossible in this space, but I have a great little storage hack using all off-the-shelf items, and you can achieve it in a single weekend. I found these units online by searching slimline storage, and flat pack furniture can look pretty standard and average, but there are ways that you can customise it, make it look more designer and more like built-in pieces of furniture.
Become the main attraction. You can do whatever you like. You know you got.
Because this is slimline, for safety, I'm attaching it to the wall so it doesn't topple over. It would be tempting to put these right next to each other, but I want to maximise the space we have available, so I'm using the whole wall. I'm also adding in some detail, like I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to put some shelves between them, and I'm just using this off-the-shelf pine that I've cut down to fit in. You may not need to do this. And a good tip is just continue the lines of your existing furniture so that it all looks good at the end. To complete the storage unit, I'm just adding in this timber bench top, and what that will do is make it look like one piece of furniture. It's also providing a lot more storage space because you could put storage baskets the whole way along, or you could use it to display things.
Lonely island. If I said I'm fine, I'd be lying.
I've used some offcuts of timber to create this very handy shelf right by the front door for things like mail and keys. I've also added these hooks below for hats or scarves or umbrellas. And no front entryway would be complete without a mirror. You can fill these cupboards with whatever you like, but I'm going to pop a work bag in here, laptop, shoes and magazines, and that way it's all safely hidden away. I'm creating some artworks to hang above the storage unit, and I know a lot of people might not be confident enough to create their own artworks at home because they might think they're not artistic enough. But I promise you, this project is so simple. All you're going to need are some frames, and these could be old ones that you have around the house, or you could get some new ones. Then you need some chalk paper from the art store and some images. These ones are some very cute postcards that I had lying around, or, which is what I'm going to use today, you could use some images that you cut out from old calendars. Then it's just a matter of layering the cards and adding in your artwork. And I'm just going to use some double-sided tape to attach that on, and to make sure it's centred or wherever you want it to be, you just want to use a ruler. And the nice thing about this is that it gives it a look like this has been framed in a gallery, because they often use mats like this, but I'm doing this for a fraction of the price. You could leave it just like this, or you could add in an extra detail, which is what I'm going to do, by using some chalk just around the edge of the blue. And that is going to make it more unique and give it a personal touch. I'm using a damp rag around the edge just to bring out the texture in the chalk. And that is done. See, I told you it was easy. All you need to do now is pop it into the frame, and then you can hang it on the wall. Brand new artwork. Having a beautiful new piece like this in your hallway is lovely, but equally as important is how you style it. So you'll see here, I've used the principle of balance and symmetry by placing objects at either end. I've also used the rule of placing objects in threes with these artworks. And I've picked up on the colour of the homeowner's existing couch and replicated it in the background of the artwork, which makes the room just feel unified and cohesive. You'll also notice that I've kept some open shelving in between the two units, and what that does is allow you to display some objects and give it some personality. Imagine walking through your door and having somewhere to put all your things, somewhere for the mail and your bags. And I can assure you, as a busy mum with a couple of little boys at home, having somewhere to put things when you walk straight through the door is vital, because it means that all that clutter doesn't spread throughout the rest of the house.
A lot of the projects we do on this show are practical. It might be repairs around the home or creating some extra storage. But once you've mastered the basics, don't be afraid to explore your creative side. I'm in Bega in southern New South Wales, and I'm here to get some inspiration from sculptor Jen Mallinson. Hello, Jen.
Hi, Adam. How are you going?
Yeah, very good.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. This is one of your creations.
It is. It's called the Meeting of Two Rivers. So the Bega River and the Brogo River meet here, not too far away from here.
Okay.
So it's like the confluence of the rivers, and it also references this spot here was an ancient Aboriginal meeting place.
The detail, that patterning all has meaning.
There's goannas, there's eels from the rivers here, that was specific.
Yeah.
There's eagles, bird footprints, kangaroo paw over there, and she oak gum nuts.
I've got to say, it's an absolutely beautiful structure.
Thank you.
How long have you been making these sculptures for?
About 13, 14 years now. I've been working with steel.
Yeah.
I was graphic designer for 35 years, and then I wanted to work with steel, so I did a welding course, and
then you just married the two together, welding, graphic design, and then you end up with this beautiful
artwork.
That's
right. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I wouldn't mind going back to your workshop and seeing some more of your amazing artwork, but also maybe learning a few techniques.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah?
And make a little sculpture. How about that?
That sounds amazing. Let's do it.
Cool? Yeah, good. Let's do it.
So Tell you what, Jen, this is a beautiful spot to have a work shed.
It's not bad, is it? I love it.
Wow. Jen, I'll tell you what, this is spectacular. I love the way how you shape the metal. This steel, it's crazy.
My little shed. I make my models here, usually. Like both of these are models.
This is absolutely gorgeous. So that's core 10?
This is core 10.
Yeah.
This is stainless steel. I like joining the two materials.
Look how thin you get it there.
This was one of the little maquettes I made for a sculpture called Brain Freeze.
Yeah.
Now it lives in Mystery Bay at a gorgeous house.
And what about this archway over here?
This is basically a 1:10 scale model of a large sculpture near Wollongong,
And
Shell Harbour.
how big's large?
This is 5.7 metres high, about 7 metres wide. Each bit fits on top of the other bit and it locks together.
Is there some little project we could do today?
Sure, we could just make something little. I actually I picked some maiden hair ferns.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
And these are actually really beautiful little forms, these leaves, and, you know, it's all very fine.
Yep.
So I thought we could take just a little section of one of these and
recreate it
in steel. We'll draw this on the steel. These are not perfect by any means. They're just the general form of what we want to make.
What's the next step?
Next step is we plasma cut it. So we better get the gear on.
Beautiful. It's such a smooth, controlled cut with that plasma, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah, they're wonderful tools.
Hot knife through butter. It's beautiful.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look, while I'm doing these, how about you grind all the burrs off?
Yeah, cool.
Slag, just clean them up a bit.
Instead of standing around and get my hands dirty. Just like woodwork, after we've made all our cuts and before we assemble it, we sand it. But in this case, we're going to be grinding it. That way, we'll make everything nice and smooth. Lucky last?
Beautiful.
Look at that, Jen. It's already taking shape.
It is, yeah. So we need a bit of rod, which we will use as the stem. We might put a bit of shape in the leaves and the stem. Okay, just a little bit. This goes through here.
Geez, that makes life easy, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
I thought we were going to be. I thought we were going to be smashing it.
It's like a rolling pin.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There we go. This just gives it a little bit of a curve.
Makes it a bit more real life.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. With all the pieces rolled, it's back to where Jen's passion for sculpture was sparked. Welding. It's a really cool skill to have. And if you want to try exploring your creativity, there are courses around the country you could try.
Yep. And there we go.
Look at that, Jen. That is absolutely beautiful. And obviously the steel base allows it to stand how it's meant to, cantilevers.
Right.
You're starting with, you know, steel is flat, yeah? You had a flat sheet, the rod's dead straight.
Yep.
But with all these sculptures here, you look at them and it's just amazing in the fact that you've created these curves, these contours, and it's just a thing of beauty.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. And thank you
curves.
for showing us some of the techniques because it really is remarkable.
My pleasure.
We all know that heading overseas is a sweet adventure, but if you can't get on a plane right now, I reckon I can get you there on a plate with a dessert. Now, this is incredible. It is from overseas. It's also from Australia, and it tastes a little bit like Malaysia. How Australian is that?
I've seen enough, it's over now. I'm heating up.
This family of desserts is called kui, and you find it in Malaysia, Indo, a bunch of places in Southeast Asia. The version I'm doing is with sweet potato. Oh, and our coconut, of course. It is a great combination. Oh, I do love this stuff. First up, you need to peel and chop your sweet potato.
Traveled far and wide, we've spent a lifetime, so we'll keep floating on, one with the river.
We'll need to cook them until they're beautifully tender. I'm steaming them, works well. You can also microwave them, but don't boil them. Otherwise, you wash all the starch out of the sweet potato, and then your slice isn't going to hold properly. That is amazing. It's perfectly tender. And the secret at this point is we need to mash it, but you don't want to let it cool down too much. So, just enough that you can handle it. I mean, for me, heat-proof chef hands, but make sure you don't burn yourself. You will notice it starts to get sticky, which is what we're looking for, because that's part of what will hold it all together. When it's nice and smooth, we're actually going to add two kinds of flour. One's more important than the other, and that is tapioca starch. What makes this special is that it sets really well when you cook it. We're going to need about 130 grams, roughly a third of a bag. The other flour is rice flour. I'm going to use the traditional, which is glutinous rice flour, but look, if you've got the other stuff, the regular works just as well. You need about 50 grams. To sweeten it up, you just want to use caster sugar. And this is one of the great things. You can have as much or as little as you like. If you want it to be sweet, I don't know, around 150 grams would be good. And if you don't want it to be too sweet, maybe 50 grams. We've got the sweet potato, but remember, we need coconut as well. Coconut cream. This is the good stuff. You'll find it in the Asian section of your supermarket. We're going to add 200 mils of this and a little bit of hot water as well. You will notice that it immediately starts to thicken up. What that is the warm sweet potato reacting with the tapioca starch. And it'll be even better once the hot water gets in there. Make sure you've got a tin ready to go because we've got to press it in and get it steaming as fast as possible. I'm using a 20 centimetre cake tin. The important bit though is not the size, it's the fact that it's solid base. Don't use a spring form because the water will get in there. I've also lined it with some cling film just to make sure it comes out nicely. This should be about half full, it's nearly there. And then to cook it, you don't bake it, you don't grill it, you steam it. When one layer of your kui dessert is not enough, well, you make another one. So we've got the sweet potato, now we need the coconut. Start off with about 200 mils more coconut cream, and then, look, it's fundamentally the same. We'll need more tapioca flour, more rice flour, more sugar, again, as much as you want. But then one really important thing, we're going to add a pinch of salt.
Seems like it's a new beginning, trying to make it feel right. Feels like
Beautifully smooth. Now, after about half an hour or so, oh yeah, that is beautifully firm to touch. So we'll just pour the coconut mix over the top and give it another half hour.
magic sound, fills the sky a sunset blue. To live out loud is a wonderful thing to do.
It's almost like a magic trick, isn't it? It is perfectly set, but still just a little bit tender, which is exactly how you want it. Now, you could let it cool down if you like, or for indulgent ones, well, serve it up perfectly warm. Scattering of coconut, why not?
We're
we've been looking around the historic gardens of Tasmania's Government House. And in the Rose Garden, you'll find heritage roses dating back centuries. You may not have heard of Noisette and Bourbon and Tea. They're the old roses that were grown and developed way back in the 16th, 17th and 18th and 19th centuries. Now, the house was built in the 1850s, so this rose garden sort of evolved at that time, growing the roses from way back in history. Beautiful old roses. Many of them have stunning perfumes. The underplantings are predominantly single carnations, or what we call pinks, a good ground cover in amongst the roses. It's a heritage garden of heritage roses, a great bit of Australian rose history right here at Government House. As beautiful as the gardens are, the staterooms of Government House are simply stunning. And we've been invited in by Her Excellency, Governor Barbara Baker. Your Excellency.
Welcome, Graham.
Thank you.
To our beautiful Government House.
It's lovely to be here. What a magnificent building. So when was it built?
So it was completed around about 1857. It took about 4 to 5 years to build. 73 rooms approximately.
Oh, really? I've seen some of the gardens outside. Can I have a look inside?
Of course, you're very welcome. So this is our beautiful dining room.
Wow, isn't it beautiful colour?
This is where we host our formal dinners. So that's a beautiful cedar and mahogany table which extends to seat 32 people. And of course, we have beautiful views looking out to the River Derwent.
Yeah. The gum trees there are just stunning.
Yes, they're beautiful trees that were planted in 1963 by Queen Elizabeth II and the Duke of Edinburgh.
Oh.
Their visits here.
I'm just looking at this ceiling.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's a glorious ceiling.
So on the ceiling we have the 3 English lines, the Scottish line and the harp of Ireland.
Yeah, it's good the Scots are here.
Yes, especially seeing my husband's Scottish. I think he likes that. This is the drawing room, which we use for functions of reception.
Lovely views out through the glass. Again, the river and you can see the bridge out in the garden.
Yes, the ceiling's beautiful. It's intricate, isn't it?
Another stunning ceiling.
Yes.
But wait, there's more.
I'll take you through. One of my
Thank you.
favourite rooms.
Oh,
yes.
Good gracious, look at that.
So this is our magnificent ballroom.
What a glorious room. So
This hue and pine.
Hue and pine, oh, well, very Tasmanian statement.
It is, and it's beautiful wood, and but it's becoming very thin, so we can't really polish it back anymore.
Right. And of course the chandeliers and the mirrors down the back, it doubles the number of chandeliers, doesn't it?
It does. These chandeliers, I think there's around about 1,100 pieces in each one, the original, and they can be wound down. All the pieces are taken off and cleaned individually. So this is our conservatory.
Oh, and a couple of vice-regal dogs.
Yes, these are our dogs,
Yeah.
Nala and Oscar. She wants to pat.
She's coming over to say hello. There you go. This has got a different vibe to it. It's a very relaxed sort of room, isn't it?
It feels less formal, doesn't it?
Yes.
And we like using it ourselves. It's very sunny, as you can see.
Yeah.
And it has a lovely outlook to the lawns.
The role of governor has been pretty consistent, through history, but I suspect in the 21st century there's a greater connection with the public and the community.
I certainly think so. The community engagement's become more important, and we certainly have tried to increase the access to Government House to the members of the public.
Well, it's just been a great journey. Thank you. A great privilege to come through and
Pleasure,
have a look
Graham.
at the building. I just love the architecture and the workmanship that goes into these buildings.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having us.
Pleasure.
All the best.
Bye-bye.